just a little bit. Good. Okay. As we all come on screen here, Laura Haney says we're live. Good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Laura, and thank you, as always, for helping out with our board meetings. It is greatly appreciated. Gregory, are you all set for us?
Ready to go.
Okay, great. All right, so hello everybody and welcome. Welcome to our June 3rd meeting of the board of the Valley of the Sun Waldorf Education Association, which we know better as Desert Marigold School. I hope everybody is doing well and is healthy. There seems to be a great deal of stress and upheaval in the world right now. It's a very difficult time for some folks, some of us maybe, for one reason or another. And I don't claim to know what all of those things might be, so I'll just say that I hope we're all managing well through it. And that goes for board members, the faculty, staff, and administration. It goes for our community members and parents and friends and family as well. Obviously, we're still virtual here. We're continuing to meet virtually due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the health and safety concerns, and candidly too, the logistics that would be required for us to try and meet in person. So at some point, I like to think that we will return to our in-person meetings, but for now, virtual is the safest and best way. The public is able to attend either by Zoom or by YouTube. And like I said, Laura said that we are live on YouTube, which is great. And hopefully we will avoid any technology issues, but if there are any, we just ask everybody's patience with those. So let me begin the meeting. My name is Matt Walker. I'm board president and also parent of a student at DMS. Can I ask the other board members to introduce themselves, starting with April?
Hi, I'm April Sauer, board member.
Gregory?
Gregory Schneider, board member and a parent of 2 students at DMS.
And board secretary. You're very humble.
Yes, thank you.
John Elling. John, you're muted, sorry.
John Elling, board treasurer.
Great. John Tanner.
John Tanner, board member.
And Nathaniel.
Nathaniel Allen, board member.
Nathaniel, welcome to your first full meeting here. Nice to have you here. Welcome.
Good to be here.
All right, let me read the opening verse as we've been doing. While we previously did it together, it seems to me to make the most sense, and it's working rather well just for me to read it. So I'll do that. The true aim of education is to awaken real powers of perception and judgment in relation to life and living. For only such an awakening can lead to true freedom. And that's from Rudolf Steiner. All right, so I'll quickly preview the agenda and touch on some meeting procedure, and then we can get started. We actually do not have a ton to cover tonight. So I like to think that we'll be reasonably brief tonight, but we'll start with some board business updates and reminders. I'm grateful to have Michelle Kratzer attending to provide a parent council update. We'll go through some budget and finance updates, updates from Christy and the administration regarding COVID-19 and planning, really just planning at this point. We'll touch on the community survey. We're not doing public comment tonight. And as a reminder, it is not required, but I would like to remind everybody that if you are interested in making your thoughts or opinions known to the board, you are welcome to email us. And we do read everything that comes our way. To log your attendance at tonight's meeting, please click on the link in the agenda notice where indicated, and it'll open an attendance sheet in Google Docs. You are not required to log your attendance, but if you choose to do so, you can. Again, just in the nature of reminders here, due to Arizona's open meeting law, we are limited in what we can discuss, just to those items that are set forth in the agenda. And also as a reminder, for those of you who have not attended a board meeting before, keep in mind this is a meeting of the board. It is our opportunity to meet, again, due to Arizona open meeting law rather. The public gets to attend, but does not get to participate unless we invite you in. So it might feel odd to simply watch the meeting and not participate in that way, but that's the way it is. So we have some things to cover. Why don't we get started? First thing on the list is approval of minutes from our May 20th meeting. So I will move for the approval of those minutes. Any second?
I'll second it, Matt.
Thank you, John. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. Did you get everybody there, Gregory? Yeah, okay. Our minutes from the executive session, do we also approve those through this same process? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Right. So again, I'll move for the approval of the minutes from our executive session on May the 20th.
I'll second.
Great. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstaining. Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. I'll also just take advantage of the opportunity tonight to provide a quick reminder to parents and members of the community about the discourse that occurs here and our expectations around behavior and communication. And I talked about this a little bit the last meeting as well. So the board receives emails. I know that Christy and the faculty and staff receive emails from parents from the community. Many of them, most of them are thoughtful, well-written, polite, and professional. Many present issues and arguments and make points that are appropriate and compelling. And I understand not everybody agrees with our decisions. And many disagree with us and are not disagreeable, but some are a bit disagreeable, and some, well, let's just say some of the content we see is less than appropriate. So my requests here are pretty simple and straightforward. Please reacquaint yourself with the parent code of conduct that is on the DMS website. Please behave with common courtesy and decency. Please feel free to disagree, but don't be disagreeable in doing so. And I'd ask, please don't engage in these things yourself. And if you see someone else doing it, please ask them to stop as well. So again, just a few quick reminders there. Board members, anything to add to that? No? Okay, great. All right, well, we are into the meat of our agenda then. So I'd like to welcome Michelle Kratzer into our meeting. As Michelle joins us to give an update on Parent Council, I'll just say a few things, Michelle, and then I'll turn over the microphone to you. So I'd like to express the board's deep gratitude for Parent Council You know this, Michelle, but it's a group of volunteers. These are folks who give a lot of time, effort, and energy and care to each other and to the school. They work really hard in a variety of ways, whether that's raising funds or it's helping students who might be in need one way or another, or it's supporting the development that some of our teachers receive. It's really valuable work. And I suspect Michelle will talk about the money that Parent Council has raised. And at our last board meeting, I think we didn't speak, we the board, and me, I'll say as well, we didn't speak articulately about the issues, and we created some swirl, and I'm sorry for that. But we're working hard to get to the bottom of things. I'm grateful that Parent Council and a few teachers stepped up to create a dialogue and pulled John Elling and me and Christy into that conversation as well. We had a really productive meeting, I think, on Monday. And I love the fact that we're working together. It was a wonderful opportunity to work together. Parent Council, faculty, a few faculty members, a couple of board members, Christy, all involved trying to figure things out and figure out a path forward. So we didn't figure everything out, but we do have a plan to move forward, and that's a really welcome thing. And I mentioned it at that meeting, but I'm really proud of the fact that we opened lines of communication that perhaps were not open before. And so it felt really good. It was real progress. Michelle, thanks for being a part of that. Thanks for leading Parent Council. And thanks for joining us tonight. So without further ado, let me turn it over to you for your report.
Thank you, Matt. I just wanted to say a little bit about what Parent Council does, because you had asked at that meeting on Monday about that, and I kind of just wanted to tell everybody, I guess. So just a brief, Parent Council is the kind of go-between with parents, faculty, administration, and the board. That bridge, I guess you could say. We have a few different teams that we work on Parent Council. We have the HANDS team, which is like volunteers that they, try and see what kind of things that can gain volunteer hours for and whatnot. And then also they do the community work days. We also have the HEADS team, and they are mostly like parent education and the class reps, trying to help class reps, be informed and whatnot. And then we have the Hearts team, and they're the social part of our council, and they do, the s'mores night and different things like that, but also they'll do the clothing exchange and a few different things to bring some social aspects to DMS. So we do a lot of fundraising, and that fundraising goes to parents' ideas or just community members' ideas on things that are needed throughout the campus. Sometimes it's, last year we wanted to bring Kim John Payne, so we said, okay, let's spend $1,000 on that. That didn't happen, unfortunately, with what was going on in the world, but we still wish for that to happen at one point. But we also use the majority of that money for teacher training, where teachers can use that for continuing education. And it's helpful for teachers. They don't get paid enough for that type of thing sometimes. So it all goes to the children in some respect. So, and then our fundraising is mostly winter fair. We do a little bit with maybe restaurant fundraisers. We have Tuft and Needle link that we can get extra money with. Sometimes we'll do Skateland. And if we can, a spring fundraiser will often have an auction along with it, which will bring in more money. Again, that didn't happen this year with COVID. So that's mostly what Parent Council is about. And with that, thank you for bringing up the money, the fundraising, and the funding discrepancy, I guess you could call it. We are working, like you said, with the board, Christy, and a few faculty members to get that corrected. And we're hoping to have that soon. So I just want to make sure that the community knows to watch out for funding solicitations for funding requests. Once we get a clear picture of how much there is, that will go out. And then once we have a meeting on those funding requests, you have to be at that meeting in order to vote for what actually is funded. So it could be a few-week process just so we can figure out everything. And then that was discussed last night at our Parent Council meeting. We will try and let everybody know as soon as possible, and as many times as possible, because it is so important that you're at both meetings in order to vote. So we'll try and remind people. And then the book club is still going on throughout the summer. We, this month, are reading Kim John Payne's Being at Your Best When Your Kids Are at Their Worst. So that happens every Monday night at 8 p.m. If you don't have the book or just can't read it at that time, it's okay. We still, there's always somebody who hasn't read the book, and it's nice to still get the information from the book without reading it. So we welcome everybody and anybody who would like to attend that. And I think the only other reminder that I had for our hands team is don't forget to log your volunteer hours. Everybody, sometimes we rely on that for different grants and whatnot. So I think the deadline for this year is June 30th. So thank you, Matt and board.
No, thank you. I'm curious, Michelle, have you guys talked about, has the Parent Council talked about what events or fundraisers or whatnot may look like? I know we don't know exactly what school reopening is going to look like, but have you guys been discussing that?
We have discussed that we may need more for socials and whatnot, may need to hold back more money than we normally do for socials. But honestly, I don't think we can really say how the socials will be until we know how school is going to be conducted. We are trying to get the confirmation on winter fair, the date confirmation, but again, we don't know how any of that is going to look. We have had very brief talk about maybe having just a social on Zoom or something, so we can get together, but yet not in the same room. So we'd love ideas if anybody has any.
I just wanted to add, because Michelle will be humble about this, as she always is. But Michelle runs these meetings like a champ. She is on it. They just boom, 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 and they are done. And it's fun to see. And I could be biased because I'm a woman, but mostly it's a big group of women. And it's really fun to just have that camaraderie and talk and throw ideas out. And there's no bad idea. It's a free for all, and it's very open and loving. And as I said, organized. So I know, oftentimes class reps, they finish out the year and then they're done. They want to volunteer in a different capacity. So for those parents that are thinking about it and wondering, Michelle just gave a great description of what Parent Council is and what it does. But consider coming. Come to a couple of meetings and just, watch them on Skype and see what it's like. It's really fun. And these women are so smart. They have great ideas, and it's just blast. And we welcome men too, I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I just haven't seen any for a really long time. They do such great work.
They're in the background sometimes, but they are there.
Good.
And we absolutely welcome anybody in the community.
Board members, any other questions for Michelle?
There was one other thing that April brought up that I forgot to mention, and that is that we are in need of a secretary. So if anybody is available, please. There's a nomination form on the desertmarigold.org website. And that's it.
Okay, good. I appear to be having internet connectivity problems. So am I freezing for you guys, or am I still coming through? Good. All right. I'm getting a lot of warnings on my screen about connectivity. All right, Michelle, again, thank you for coming. Thank you for the update, and thank you for leading Parent Council. All right, then we are into budget and finance updates. And Christy, we're going to talk about a number of things here. I'm happy to invite you into the meeting. But why don't we start with where we've been starting the last few of these meetings, John Elling, with maybe some updates on the PPP loan and things of that sort. So John, let me turn it over to you.
Sure, Matt. Thank you. We don't have the regular financials because this is sort of our in-between regular monthly meeting. So there aren't any reports to share. Updates on the PPP loan. I had gotten communication from MidFirst Bank that they haven't gotten their forgiveness application ready yet, but they'll alert us as soon as they do. But one of the good things that they included in that email was that they actually will assign an officer of the bank to us to help with that application for forgiveness. So that should be coming up. It's going to be the end of the 8 weeks if they stick to that. There's even been some talk that they're going to go longer than that so people can use the money. But that should come up right around the middle of June. So for the next meeting, we should pretty much have close to the final figures on the PPP loan and how much of it we used. I'm pretty confident that we're going to use most of it, if not all of it, which will be good. because we'll be able to get forgiveness on the whole thing. But that's where we're at right now. If anyone has any questions.
Sorry, not a question, but another comment. On there's a bill pending in Congress right now about extending the amount of time you have to use the PPP loan money, and permitting more of it to be used for things other than payroll. Right now, I think you have to use 75% of it for payroll. They're talking about dropping that to 60%. So if you're sitting here watching this meeting and thinking, gee, I wish there was something concrete I could do to help the school in 3 minutes, you can call your congressman and say, please vote for that bill. That would be something you could do. The House has already passed it, so you'll want to call the senators. You can call both senators for the state.
Thanks, Gregory.
And John Elling, the 8 weeks, the deadline of that 8 weeks it's got to be close, right? We're within a week or so of that.
Probably a week and a half.
Okay.
I think it was around the 14th
Of April.
Yeah.
So I'd have to go back and look at a calendar and count the weeks, but
I have it marked down.
okay.
I just don't have it right in front of me, Matt, and I don't want to take the time to dig through things to find that. But
Okay.
yeah, it's right around there, 14th, 15th of June.
Okay.
And so with our meeting being the 17th, I think we'll have some pretty finite numbers for what's going on with the loan and where we're at that point.
Okay. All right, good. Anything else on the PPP loan? It sounds like we'll defer our regular financial discussion to our meeting in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And we should have May financials done by then, you think, John? We'll have those?
Yes.
May 31? Yeah. Okay. All right, good. Budget, annual budget update. I don't know that there's been a ton of progress again in the last 2 weeks on this, but I'm not entirely sure. So John Elling and or Christy, do we have any updates there?
I do not, Matt. We had saw the last, what Christy presented at the last meeting and discussed that a little bit, but I know they had some more work to do on it. So I don't really have anything to add on that at this point.
Okay. And Christy, can I assume we are working away as usual? We've got to the middle of July, so to speak, and as we move forward with planning for reopening and all sorts of other things, the budget will come with focus.
Yes. So internally, we're working on the budget in various areas. I aim to have an update to the working group, the board working group, the budget working group, early next week, if not by the end of the week, for some considerations to have further discussion. And we, as far as I'm concerned, are on track to have it submitted, evaluated, and then approved by the deadline.
Okay, great. Gregory, do we need to schedule a specific board meeting for budget approval?
We do. And last year, this was the meeting where we would have approved that, and it's posted on the website as this being the budget meeting. Obviously, the entire world changed, and we're not doing that tonight. So we'll need to update the website when we figure out when we're going to have that budget approval meeting. It's probably something we should figure out tonight or at our next meeting. It sounds like we're probably not going to be ready to approve a budget on the 17th. I think that would be a little ambitious at this point and give ourselves an unnecessary deadline, but we should. And then the next meeting that is scheduled right now is in the next fiscal year, which I believe is July 15th. And we had talked about scheduling another meeting before that. I can pull up the calendar real quick.
So we have a gap between June 17 and July 15.
I'm just double checking the dates. Yeah, so July 15th is the first one in the next fiscal year, and our last one that we had scheduled for this fiscal year is our next meeting on June 17th.
Okay. Okay. All right. And the fiscal year has come out of alignment a little bit with the school year because of the state pushing back the deadline, amongst other things, the state pushing back the deadline for the budget being due. I agree with you that it feels like a tall order to pull together a final budget by 2 weeks from tonight. So would we look a week past that? So maybe June 24th is a Wednesday. We could do it then. We could presumably do it the 29th or 30th. From a governance standpoint, it would be preferred, and I don't know if it's required, but it would be preferred to have the budget approved for the next fiscal year before we actually begin that fiscal year on July 1st. Again, I don't know whether it's required, but if anybody feels differently, say so.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a specific requirement, but I agree with you. It makes sense to have it approved before we're in it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, let's be realistic. There's a lot going on, and we have a lot to sort of conclude as a board, and so does the school, so does Christy, by the end of the month. So, you know, realistically, can we get it done? Can we pull together a finalized budget, let's say 3 weeks from now, or maybe the 29th or 30th of June? Christy, what do you think?
I think that's feasible.
All right. Group, what do you guys think? My preference would be to aim for the 29th or 30th. Let's give ourselves just a little extra time. That would be a Monday or a Tuesday evening, I presume. It's also the week before July 4th, so I don't know if any of you have plans in your personal lives. Although it's a tough thing to schedule those plans right now. Any particular preferences, you know, the 24th of June, or let's say the 29th? So Wednesday the 24th or Monday the 29th? Any preferences?
My preference would be the 29th.
Mr. Tanner, did you?
Given my experience with these things, I think that while I agree with Mr. Allen, I would say that we had better call a meeting on the 24th just to see where it is. it's not always that easy. And if you wait till the end, then it's the end.
Yep. Yeah, there's no more room after the 29th. I hear you.
I would also prefer the 24th. I may try and take a vacation of sorts the week of the leading up to the 4th of July. It's going to not be a very exciting vacation, but I would like to be unplugged. So.
And Nathaniel, do you have a conflict on the 24th?
Not anymore. Whatever you decide. I'm good
Okay.
with.
Are we good with the 24th? And if we're, and we'll check in on the 17th, obviously, too. And if we need to adjust, we will. But let's aim for the 24th then. And if for whatever reason we're unable to complete it on the 24th, we have a couple of days, to Mr. Tanner's point. We have a few days to work it out. All right. Great. That's helpful. All right, bookkeeper position. So this is a position the board has been interested in. We've talked about it. We've expressed an interest in having a position part-time in the budget for next year. Although I think that Christy may have an alternate proposal where, I'll just say an alternate proposal. So Christy, let me turn it over to you to sort of walk through the Aspire angle.
Sorry. So I was preparing a job description and getting ready to submit to the board for consideration and posting of the bookkeeper position. And in doing so, I had met with Aspire and talked about the arrangement. And what I was not fully aware of is that when the contract with Aspire was renegotiated by former board members in the fall of 2019, that it included the bookkeeping accounting component. The reason that was contemplated and integrated into the agreement is largely due to the fact that it's a third party who is subject to not only regular accounting practices, but also financial management ethics and responsibilities. And it was basically a step removed, a third party, neutral party, who would be responsible not only for the bookkeeping, but also others within that firm responsible for the finance management, grants management, reconciliations, P&L reports, basically the whole gambit. So as I was looking at the costs of hiring a bookkeeper, which would be, we were budgeting about 10 to 20 hours a week, approximately $30-some thousand a year, in addition to the contract to which we are subject with Aspire, who would do the whole thing. It seemed more financially appropriate to carry through with Aspire to do all of it, at least for the time being, and free up that money to be allocated somewhere else in the budget. So just to step back a little bit, Jessica Jarrett, as all of you know, has been helping out tremendously with the cash flow and reporting. She stepped into that because Aspire was primarily focused on finishing the cleanup of the books and getting all of the chart of accounts allocated and correct, and we're there. So we are there. We have the reporting procedures in place. So we're set. So there isn't going to be that extra need that Jessica filled, thankfully, for so long. So she's working on transitioning the pieces she was working on to Aspire as well. And they can basically handle it all. So while I was initially moving forward with the job description for a bookkeeper, it seems at this point in time and with the given climate that it just makes sense to have Aspire as a neutral third party handling all aspects of our accounting and bookkeeping.
Good. Any discussion, board members?
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Gregory.
No, go ahead, April.
I mean, I know since Jessica has been doing this and Aspire has been doing this, we haven't had someone on site like during the school day to handle any money. And I'm not sure what that process is right now, but can you speak to that? What does it look like for maybe a parent who comes in with $10 to pay for a field trip or something like that? Who's handling those day-to-day, parent transactions?
Yes, actually, I can speak to that, and thank you for asking, because I that should have been part of my my informative update. So with school admin and schoolmaster, we have added a billing component to it without additional cost. We've added that this year, so everything is literally automated. Parents will go in for field trips, tuition if it's private, aftercare, consumable fees, anything that a parent would ordinarily walk in and give our front desk money to go to something will no longer occur. It's all going to be online and parent driven. So they will log in, they will have that field trip, if you will, for first grade. Well, not fair, first grade doesn't take any, but sixth grade. They'll go in, they'll pay it online, they'll have an accurate running accounting of everything that they have paid for. Those receipts will be also recorded in our accounting software, and there will be no financial transactions taking place on site. So that was another reason why it made more sense, because we wouldn't need that person on site all day, every single day, to make sure that things were properly allocated. It's going to be largely driven by, families to go in, pay it, and know where their money's going.
Okay, follow-up question. Because that all sounds great and amazing. I love it. I'm a details person. I would be the person to pay immediately so I don't forget. But for the other parents who roll up to school and their kid says, "Did you pay for my field trip?" Is there going to be someone in the office who can walk them through that, on their phone or whatever mobile device they have, in case they missed it the week before when they got the information or whatever?
Absolutely. So we'll have office staff fully trained to help parents log in and walk through the steps to make those payments. We already have them. They're ready to go. The point was to just reduce the amount of in-person traffic exchange of cash and checks, and to just reduce human error. As best as everyone can, to make sure that it's allocated appropriately. It just, to us, makes sense to give it back to the parents so they have further assurance that when they're paying for something, they know it's being properly allocated.
I love it. It sounds great.
And Christy, do I understand that if a parent makes a payment, then it automatically goes to the correct place in our accounting system as well?
Yes.
Okay, that's great.
And so we will have, so Aspire will be, well, we'll have a regular person in the office 1 day a week, all day, to take care of any, for instance, bills that may be physically mailed to us that need to be, put into our accounting system, to do any sort of reimbursements. We are doing reimbursements to employees on a weekly basis instead of using school credit cards. So we've been doing that pretty much since we've closed in March, and it's working well. So they'll be on site that 1 day, and that's really all that they're going to need to be. We also have a system that we've been on for a couple of years, but I don't think it's been largely discussed, and it's Bill.com. And so Bill.com is when we receive invoices, whether it be by mail or mostly it's electronic. For instance, I'll get emails saying, from City of Phoenix that says, you owe this. So then I email it to Bill.com. It's coded appropriately and it's paid. It's put into the pipeline to be paid. So there isn't someone who's going to be needing to be there processing all of those items every single day.
Is that a system that we can also use to direct people to do things like tax credit donations and that sort of thing? Or is this just like day-to-day expenses and tuition and that sort of thing?
So Bill.com is just for our vendors. The school master part that I was talking about, that billing component, tax credits can be paid through there.
Perfect. It would be really nice to have that automated and allocated correctly as it's coming in.
Yes, and we'll be able to tie it directly to each parent and know that the parents are driving this because they're the ones making the election and the designation.
Perfect. And then you mentioned that there's like a financial savings between hiring a bookkeeper part-time, which would have been about $30,000 a year. What is the difference between going with Aspire, which from everything else you've said, I clearly am in favor of, but I was just wondering how much is the savings there?
So everything that they are doing, which will include the bookkeeping piece, I believe our contract is $4,000 a month. If we were to add a bookkeeper on top of that to do the same thing that Aspire has already been contracted to do, it just seems duplicative and unnecessary.
Right.
So that's why I was thinking we try this, and if there's problems, if we need more boots on the ground on a regular basis, we can readjust that and we can renegotiate that. But now that we're at a place where we are caught up, the accounting, the reporting, it's all it's all up to snuff. It really isn't going to take a lot of time to prepare the reports that may be requested or needed, and the reconciliations and everything else that Aspire's already been doing every month as we prepare for our regular board meetings.
Excellent. That sounds better than expected, to have something already in place that covers that.
Yeah, it really is a win across multiple aspects. It was maybe indirectly said in there, but in the world we find ourselves in, having a way where we don't need parents to come in and hand over cash in person, that's probably a really good thing. So it's good timing and aligns well. And by the way, this is from what I've come to learn, this is not uncommon in the nonprofit world, where you are able to outsource some of your bookkeeping and accounting functions to a place like Aspire that specializes in supporting nonprofits and in particular charter schools. So we're taking advantage of those things. All right, so it sounds, Christy, as though that's a plan to move forward with. So no need to generate the bookkeeper job description. And we'll see how it goes. And if we need to adjust, like you said, then come back to us and we'll figure that out. All right, thank you. Last thing then on the budget side or budget and finance side, is a quick update on RSF social finance. I do remain in close contact with Amy Bird, our relationship manager. As I've mentioned before, Amy has requested some additional financial records and financial documents, and I'm in contact with Jessica and Priscilla to help generate those. I do expect those soon, in the next handful of days, and that's fine. Next week, a week from today, June 10th, John Elling and I are going to meet with RSF by phone. It's an update meeting to see where we are with negotiations, to see where we are with the delivery of information that they have asked for. And so I think John and I can get clarity on the timeline as well. Amy has provided some information there. So it does feel like things are continuing to move in the right direction. One thing Amy has asked about is a site visit. And I just don't know how she wants to handle that yet. I don't know how RSF wants to handle that yet in the context of COVID and travel restrictions and everything else. She is thinking about that. Amy Bird, is thinking about that. I'm expecting she'll tell us how she wants to do that, and we'll go from there. So that's where we are. Any questions on that?
I have one more budget question for Christy.
Yeah, please.
Christy, sorry, I know you were done and then it popped into my head. Do we have a timeline of when Jessica is completed with her volunteer work and when Aspire fully takes on the reins? I cannot believe the amount of work that she has done, and I'm sure that we all need to have some sort of parade with our cars and, I don't know, signs or something to say thank you, because it's just tremendous what she's done for us.
It truly is, and just amazing. And her efficiency and knowledge has just been invaluable, and has really helped us get ahead far faster than we could have without her. So she is working with us. There's a few things we still need to transition. She's still available to serve as a resource, but I know that she and Priscilla from Aspire are still coordinating on transferring and responsibilities and ensuring that we have everything we need in terms of what Jessica has been working on, so that she can say farewell and leave us in a much, much better place than we were. So there isn't really a hard and fast deadline. We're just working on it. I think certainly by the start of the school year for sure. But I don't really feel comfortable saying really any other estimate than that at this point.
Okay. So that gives us 2 months to flood her with thankful texts and emails and cards and whatever else. If she's watching, thank you, Jessica. We're so grateful.
Indeed we are. She has set us up for success really nicely. All right, good. Any other questions, comments in the budget and finance item? No? Okay. All right, so moving on to COVID-19, the big news, of course, as I think board members are aware, certainly Christy knows, is that the Arizona Department of Education provided their guidance, if we can call it that. They provided their guidance about 48 hours ago. It's lengthy. I imagine a lot of us are working our way through it. It's certainly too early for any decisions. So I'm hoping what we can do tonight is begin to discuss and begin to identify some of the bigger issues, perhaps, that might be on the horizon for us, get us all thinking about them. Christy, thank you for the communication that you put out on Parent Square last night to the community. I thought that was really well done. And the commitment to have a plan communicated to parents by June 30th is aggressive, I think, but I think it's the right timing because, of course, everybody wants to know as best we can what is going to happen, what can we expect. So we all are in a position of wanting to plan, and when I say we all, I mean parents. Parents, of course, want to be able to plan. So again, I'm not expecting that we're going to put substantive issues on the table for debate and decision tonight, but rather let's start identifying some of the bigger issues and figuring out sort of how do we proceed from here in partnership with Christy, we as a board, and partnership with Christy and the faculty and staff. So how can we do that? And maybe Christy, I'll just start off with a question to you around how we are, or how are you organizing, how are you involving folks from the school to help you review and consider the path forward? Like how are you mobilizing the team, so to speak?
Yes, so thank you. And I, yes, I did provide an update in advance of the meeting on Parent Square, like you said. I know some parents noted the time at which I sent it. Yes, that's indicative of us working very hard, very long hours, trying to digest not only what we know now, but digest the newly issued guidelines that there were several guidelines that were issued. One is a lengthy document for the reopening of schools, a roadmap, if you will. There's another set of guidelines and considerations for leaders, for parents, and for students, and for teachers. So there's a lot to drill down on and analyze. And so this week, our task is to basically, for my task in the LDC, is to evaluate all of this guidance and put together a roadmap, if you will, of reopening. We are going to be collaborative in this and asking for input from faculty and staff where appropriate. When we're completed, we'll have to submit it to the board for review and ratification, and we'll release to the community. As you noted, it is a lofty goal to have it on June 30th, but I put that deadline because I think it's really important for us to have some sort of working framework to move forward. And the date that I issued is in line with a lot of other charter schools in Arizona who are aiming to have similar roadmaps by the end of June. I will say that the overall takeaway theme from all of the guidance that we've received over the past several months, including the last of which, is flexibility. Everybody involved needs to be flexible. So whatever roadmap we put out, it's subject to change at any time, but we need to have some sort of stability and expectation to move forward. So in doing so, our overall roadmap is going to track the guidelines issued by the state, which includes 4 different scenarios. The first of which is what do we need to do for all students to return and be in physical buildings? Scenario number 2, what's it going to look like if some students are in physical buildings and some are doing distance learning? 3, all students distance learning, which I think is not workable with our school, and it would be a last resort. And then 4 is intermittent distance learning in the event that there's an emergency school closure. What's it going to look like if we have a few students who have COVID? What do we do? What do we do with those classes? What do we do with the overall group of students, K through 12? So those are the 4 scenarios that we're really going to need to fill in. The considerations under each of those scenarios include considerations of school culture, instructional leadership, staffing, and operations. So we're going to fill in those 4 scenarios and with those 4 considerations and put together various options and roadmaps to best serve our community, our students. Again, it's going to have to be flexible because this is ever changing. But that's our 30,000 foot overall vision of putting something together to provide teachers and students and parents some sort of expectation for when we reopen. And as I indicated in the Parent Square post, it's going to be a lengthy process. And while we may be able to provide, and we aim to provide a fairly substantive roadmap by the end of this month, it's going to be a lot of details to work through, working with various state agencies, the CDC, ADE, our Arizona Department of Health. So it's going to be a work in progress, I think, for the entire school year when we reopen.
And do you have, Christy, do you have a working group that's doing this, or is it all hands on deck? Like who from the school is involved in helping you out?
So our first step is going to be, I'm going to be working with the LDC and administration, and then we will seek out input from teachers and staff as needed to fill in those gaps and provide us any feedback.
I know you're just getting started with this process, but are there any things that have come up so far where you think we, the board, could be helpful, or that you would need guidance from us, or something that you want us to weigh in on even, you know, a one-off basis, or something like that to help you meet that June 30th goal you've set for yourself?
I don't know that I can answer that right now. I can't, nothing immediately comes to mind, but I'm sure it would be helpful. So if there's a few of the board members who would like to participate in a working group to bounce ideas off of, that would be great. The more the merrier.
Well, I'd certainly be willing to. I can't commit a tremendous amount of time to it, but if there are, you know, if 1 or 2 meetings or phone calls a week leading up to the 30th, I'd be happy to participate, even if it's just as a sounding board. If you want, you know, someone with legal experience, just for a gut check, I'm happy to play that part.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Christy, I was essentially going to say the same thing. I'm available during the day. Even if you guys just want someone to be, I imagine you're doing all this over Zoom. So even if you just want someone there to be a note taker, I'll just sit silent and, you know, type up what people are saying. You know, I'm willing, I'm available. You know that I'll stick my feet in there any way I need to. The other thing I wanted to say was 2 things that stuck out to me. Well, 3 things. I said this at the parent council meeting last night. I read this document and I'm convinced no one at the ADE has ever met a child because there are so many suggestions where I'm just like, what? Like, this is not a possibility. I don't know how any of this is going to be done, but I know we're magic at the school. We're going to make it happen. But the other thing that really jumped out at me were taking care of the mental health of our students and teachers. And then secondly, having a designated health screener. And as we know, we don't have a nurse. And it had some different options of, how to designate someone and train them. And I know you just got this document, but I know you're also looking into that grant that the state is talking about to help with some of the financing of maybe things like cleaning and whatever. Is this also something, these two positions that would be, I mean, because we don't have them. I'm just wondering from a finance point, how do we do this? Because it was very clear to me that those two things are extremely important and we need to, earmark them.
Right. So the grant is, so we'll at a minimum, right now, at a minimum qualify for $50,000. So Aspire is going to handle that piece in terms of submitting our application. So we're on track for that. But out of that $50,000, what do we prioritize to use that? Obviously, cleaning services is going to be key. I've been, over the course of the past week, interviewing and touring with potential cleaning companies. Needs to possibly be done and expand the regular scope of services to include that sanitization part. And why the budget is still not something that I can even submit to the working group because I don't have those bids yet. So we've got the cleaning services to consider. We don't have a school nurse, but there are training programs out there that we send designated staff to be trained to take the temperatures and assess symptoms. So yeah, we have to explore all of that. It's a lot. It's a lot to digest. And that's, going back to the overall theme. We need to be flexible and creative and do as best as we can for our own individual community. The state, as you can tell from reading the guidelines, they've really left it up to each individual school district to do what they feel is right and what suits the needs of the majority of their communities.
Nathaniel, did you have, it looked like you were trying to chime in a minute ago there.
I can be available to help in the review committee or group as well.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Am I muted or can you hear me now?
That's good. Yep.
I was just offering as well if we need another board member to help facilitate. And the other thing I think to maybe calm some of the concerns about the specifics of that reopening plan, it is suggested guidance, right? They're pretty clear about that. So we really do get to pick and choose how far we go, but we have to consider everything that we put forward, right? It's not a mandate. I guess I'm asking you, Kristen.
I'm still having a little bit of a hard time hearing you. I wonder if the microphone is right in front of you, but I think I got the gist of it. Gregory, were you able to capture that too?
I think I got most of it. I was also struggling to hear, but I think what I got was, number one, you're willing to help. Number two, the 80 guidelines are just that. They're guidelines, not a mandate. So we get to pick the tools that we want to use from those guidelines to make the school safe and functional as best we can in the fall.
Christy, how about So when the plan comes together, or the framework, or whatever that is, it seems like something that should be put in front of the board for the board's approval. And the reason I say that, of course, is it's a governance and oversight thing. But in addition to that, I think the board would likely be delegating to you the authority to make decisions on behalf of the school. If something happens and you need to go to Plan B, you would probably be the one making that determination. So if that's going to be the case, then certainly the board would want to see it. So we'll have to figure out the logistics of that also. We don't need to figure that out right now, but at some point, I think the board will need to see it so that we can weigh in on it.
I would prefer that as well, and I anticipate that we're going to have to submit our plan not only to the charter board but also ADE. They're really active in the surveys and wanting to know what schools are doing and how they're reacting to the various guidance that has been issued over the course of the past few months. And I anticipate that trend to continue. And they've been pretty specific in asking for the written plans and wanting to see what the schools are coming up with, because they have essentially left it up to the discretion of each district.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of a, it's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It's guidelines, great. So we have total flexibility, and we can do, what is appropriate for DMS. On the other hand, we have to make 1,000 decisions, and certainly that can be challenging. How about, is there anything, Christy, you think we learned from March? Let's say when, hey, we had to close the school very quickly and move to this online experience. What did we learn, or what have we learned over the last 2.5 months here that we think is important or applicable as we move forward?
It's a really interesting and timely question. I had a call with a parent who doesn't go to DMS but lives on the West Coast or East Coast and is very familiar with Waldorf and looking to relocate. And we talked a lot about this switch that all of us had to do. And so I was reflecting actually on the same question earlier today. I think from my perspective, it would be that and I don't think this is particular to DMS. I think many schools, not only in Arizona, but across the country have dealt with this. And that is the emergency response plans that are currently in existence did not plan for a pandemic such as this. So a very great overall takeaway is to make sure that we do make plans for this if, heaven forbid, this ever happens again. But I think one of the bigger challenges too for us was being able to translate such an experiential education to online remote. Our faculty and staff did absolutely amazing in making that transition, but it wasn't without hiccups. And so I think overall, one of the takeaways is we understand that technology doesn't have a solid place at DMS and with the pedagogy, but we need to be prepared for it as times change so that we can make that transition as necessary. So I think that is going to be one of the goals as we work towards reopening next year, is to have those technology resources available and fully stocked, if you will, with educational tools and experiences that really resonate with the students and the parents. Some of the feedback that I've received is that there's just a lot of the teachers, they were doing their best to put as much material as they could online, but it wasn't as interactive as it maybe could have been in terms of finding audio and video and those sorts of things. And it's a learning curve for all of us. So I think part of the focus going forward is to make sure that those resources, for instance, Google Classroom, are fully stocked and ready to go with really rich as can be, remote learning tools if we have to flip that switch.
Okay. And that seems like it will be part of the plan. Plan B will likely include some sort of distance learning, if forced to. Okay. Board members, what other sort of questions, high level at this point, do you have? Okay. Not hearing any. I'll just reiterate a point that Christy made around flexibility. So I'll just ask each of us, hey, we have to be patient and flexible. So things are going to change. Like I said, we have the school collectively has 1,000 decisions to make. Not everyone is going to agree with every single thing, but we need to come together, seek understanding, move forward together as best we can, and recognize things may change. Things may change without a ton of lead time, if necessary. So the other thing I would mention apart from that is around funding. So I don't know about everybody else, but I'm at least worried about shortfalls in the state's funding for the next fiscal year. And we're going to be in this, I fear we're going to be in this tough spot of we need more money because we have additional personnel we need to hire or additional safeguards to put in place or health and safety things to consider. They're not free. So there will be an increased demand, and I'm worried that there will be a shortfall in state funding at the same time. We'll have to address that as a community. And so, we may have to ask for help, funding help from our community members. And not everybody is going to be in a position to provide that, and I completely understand it. But we may be in a position where we need to ask. So again, just want to put that on the radar as well. And we may not know for another month or two what the state's funding is going to look like. Some of the state's funding will require changes, legislative changes, and currently the legislature is not in session. So even if they were to come back soon, there would obviously be deliberations and then voting and whatnot. So it may be a while before we have real clarity on what the financial picture is going to look like in terms of state funding. So again, just it's something looming on the horizon for us collectively to be aware of. All right, anything else on that topic, gang? All right, hearing none. The last item on our agenda then is community survey. Christy, what can you provide for us in terms of update?
First, again, we appreciate everyone's patience and flexibility as our timelines have been thrown off a bit and our focus and attention has been shifted. We have sent out the faculty and staff survey, and we are turning towards developing a community survey as well for parents to weigh in. I know that is something that many for quite some time have expressed an interest in, and having an avenue to share their thoughts, and we look forward to it. We're looking forward to everyone working together to address any questions or concerns, and constantly grow and evolve. So we are working on developing that. I do not have an ETA, but we will be working with some of our committee members on the 301 committee, because it's part of the requirements under 301 to prepare such a survey. So we are going to turn our focus, and there's going to be a group who's going to be working on that project as well. So again, I don't have an ETA, but it is something we are going to turn our focus to over the summer. And again, I just implore and plead for patience and flexibility, because we are going to put something out there, and we'll give everyone an opportunity to weigh in.
Good. Gang, any questions for Christy on that?
What is the scope of the faculty survey? I'm just curious what it is you're trying to get out of that, and I could imagine 100 different topics that it might cover. So
Sure. Yeah. So from what I understand, it was a regular survey that had been sent out, and it hadn't been for a while. And with the goals that the board assigned my position in particular in the beginning of this year, I think one of the goals was to develop such a survey and send it out to just ask faculty and staff for feedback about certain things, such as just the overall organizational structure, how it's serving them, what they're doing to contribute to the culture, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, how could they help work to improve as we all work together collaboratively. So there's that piece. There's about 4 sections, and Matt can help me out too, but organizational structure, accountability, and workplace culture. Those are the top 3. And also what qualities and experiences do they think is important for a permanent executive director?
And just as a heads up to the board members, there are a couple of questions about the board as well, and the level and type of support that the board is providing to the faculty and staff as well. So I'm looking forward to input on that. And there's a couple of general satisfaction related questions in there.
The survey closes on the 8th, so we'll be able to provide some data to the board at the next board meeting on the 17th.
Yeah, it's anonymous, so the data would be in an aggregated form.
She just answered my question, so I don't have anything else to say.
Well, Christy, thank you to you and the others for the help in getting that faculty and staff survey out. I'm looking forward to seeing the results, and same for give our thanks to the 301 committee for lending a hand with the community survey as well. Like you said, hey, we've received public comment, we've received questions from parents and others about this, so it's good that we haven't lost sight of it, and we're continuing to pursue it. All right, gang, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Anything else to add or discuss? No? All right. Well then, I will make the motion to adjourn.
I can second that.
Thank you, Nathaniel. Any discussion? No? All right. All in favor? Aye. Oh, look at that. Unanimous. All right. So let me read the closing verse, and then we'll be finished for the evening. Before I do that, just a quick thank you to Christy and Michelle for joining us tonight. And Michelle, hopefully I did not interrupt or cut you off when I was having technical difficulties. I may have done that. If so, I apologize. But thank you again, both of you, for joining us, and thank you, board, for a really good meeting tonight. Our closing verse: the most important tasks for humankind today and in the future is that we should learn to live together and understand one another. If this human fellowship is not achieved, all talk of development is empty. And that's from Rudolf Steiner. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Good night.
Good night.